For countless parents, the dream of having a healthy child is a simple, profound hope. For those who carry the burden of mitochondrial disease, however, that dream is often clouded by a terrible fear. Imagine knowing that the very act of creating a new life could pass on a devastating, incurable illness. It is a heartbreaking reality that forces prospective parents into an impossible choice between their desire for a family and the risk of inflicting immense suffering on their own child. For one mother at the Newcastle clinic, the prospect was a source of constant anguish. "All you want to do is have a baby that's not affected," she shared, her voice filled with the weight of her genetic lottery. This simple, powerful sentiment captures the desperation and hope that drives this remarkable scientific journey. The emotional toll of carrying a genetic disorder is immense, casting a long shadow over the joy of pregnancy and parenthood. These families are not just dealing with a medical condition, they are grappling with a legacy of illness that can stretch back through generations. Each new birth carries with it a heavy question mark. Will this child be the one to escape the genetic fault? Or will they face a life of pain, disability, and shortened expectations? The psychological strain is relentless. It affects relationships, life decisions, and the fundamental ability to look toward the future with optimism. The desire for a child becomes entangled with a deep sense of responsibility and potential guilt, a burden that no parent should have to bear alone in their journey. This is the very human context in which a revolutionary new technology has emerged, offering not just a medical treatment, but a beacon of light in the darkness. The development of mitochondrial donation treatment, often referred to as three-parent IVF, represents a monumental leap forward in reproductive medicine. It is a technique born from decades of meticulous research, driven by the compassionate goal of uncoupling a mother's love from her faulty genes. For the first time, science is offering a way to break the chain of inherited mitochondrial disease, allowing mothers to have biological children without passing on their genetic condition. This is more than just a scientific breakthrough. It is a profound gift of hope. The recent news from the UK, announcing the births of 8 healthy babies using this pioneering method, has transformed that hope into a tangible reality. These children, born free from the disease that haunted their families, are living proof that the future can be different. Their healthy cries and normal developmental milestones are a testament to the power of science to change lives in the most fundamental way imaginable. For the families involved, and for many more watching from the sidelines, this is the beginning of a new chapter. It is a chapter where fear gives way to possibility, and where the dream of a healthy child is no longer an impossible one to hold. To truly grasp the significance of this breakthrough, we must first understand the adversary mitochondrial disease. Inside almost every cell in our body are tiny structures called mitochondria. Often called the powerhouses of the cell, their job is to convert the food we eat into the energy our bodies need to function. They are absolutely essential for life, powering everything from the beat of our heart to the firing of neurons in our brain. Without healthy, functioning mitochondria, our bodies simply cannot produce the energy required to sustain our most vital organs. This fundamental role is precisely why diseases affecting them can be so catastrophic and widespread in their effects on the human body. Unlike the DNA in our cell's nucleus, which we inherit from both parents, mitochondrial DNA, also known as mtDNA, comes exclusively from our mother. It is passed down through the egg. This means that if a mother has mutations in her mtDNA, she will pass these faulty genes on to all of her children. The severity of the resulting disease often depends on the percentage of faulty mitochondria a child inherits. This creates a cruel genetic lottery. One child might inherit a low level and be relatively healthy, while a sibling could inherit a high percentage and suffer from a severe, life-limiting form of the disease, making family planning an exercise in chance. The consequences of these genetic faults are devastating. Because mitochondria are crucial for high-energy organs, the diseases they cause can lead to a bewildering and tragic array of symptoms. Patients may experience conditions such as muscle weakness, heart failure, liver failure, blindness, developmental delays, and severe neurological problems like seizures and strokes. These are not minor ailments. They are progressive, debilitating conditions that rob individuals of their health and, all too often, their lives. Affecting approximately 1 in every 5,000 children, mitochondrial diseases are some of the most common inherited neurological disorders, yet they remain incredibly difficult to diagnose and tragically have no cure. This lack of effective treatments is what makes prevention so critically important. Doctors can manage symptoms to a degree, but they cannot fix the underlying problem in the cells. The energy deficit is permanent and progressive. For families who have watched a loved one decline from mitochondrial disease, the prospect of bringing another child into the world to face the same fate is unthinkable. It is this desperate need for a preventative solution, a way to stop the disease before it even begins, that has spurred scientists at Newcastle University and beyond to pursue a new and audacious approach, one that could finally offer families a way out of this cycle of suffering. The revolutionary technique at the heart of this story is called pronuclear transfer, or PNT. While it is often simplified in headlines as three-parent IVF, the science is both elegant and precise. The process begins like a standard IVF cycle, where an egg from the mother is fertilized in the lab with sperm from the father. At this very early stage, the fertilized egg contains two crucial components: the nuclear DNA, which holds the genetic blueprint from both parents for things like hair color and personality, and the mother's mitochondria, which unfortunately carry the harmful mutations. It is at this point that the truly innovative step takes place, changing the genetic destiny of the resulting embryo. Separately, a healthy egg is donated by a volunteer who does not have mitochondrial disease. This donor egg is also fertilized with the father's sperm. The scientists then perform an incredibly delicate microsurgical procedure. They carefully remove the nuclear DNA from the intended parent's fertilized egg, leaving the faulty mitochondria behind. They then transfer this precious genetic material into the fertilized donor egg, which has had its own nuclear DNA removed. The result is a reconstructed embryo that has the nuclear DNA from its mother and father, but the healthy, energy-producing mitochondria from the donor. This clever swap ensures the child inherits its core characteristics from its parents, but is powered by healthy cellular machinery. It is important to clarify the three-parent label. While DNA from 3 individuals is used, the contribution is vastly unequal. Over 99.8% of the child's genetic makeup, the DNA that makes them who they are, comes from their mother and father. The DNA from the donor mitochondria makes up less than 0.2% of the total and only codes for mitochondrial function, not for personal traits. Therefore, the resulting child will strongly resemble their parents, not the donor. The donor's contribution is purely functional, like replacing a faulty battery in a beloved device. It allows the device to work perfectly, but it doesn't change the device itself in any other meaningful way. This technique is a game changer because it offers a proactive solution rather than a reactive one. Previous options for these families were limited and often heartbreaking. They could use a donor egg, meaning the mother would have no genetic link to her child. They could adopt, or they could risk pre-implantation genetic testing, which screens embryos for the lowest levels of faulty mitochondria, but offers no guarantee of a healthy child. Pronuclear transfer, by contrast, directly addresses the root of the problem. It builds a healthy embryo from the ground up, providing the best possible chance for families at high risk to have a healthy, biologically related child, free from the shadow of their inherited disease. The abstract science of pronuclear transfer has now been translated into the most wonderful of outcomes, the healthy births of 8 children in the United Kingdom. This remarkable cohort, consisting of 4 boys and 4 girls, including 1 set of identical twins, represents the culmination of years of research, ethical debate, and clinical dedication. Born to 7 mothers, all of whom carried a high risk of passing on severe mitochondrial disease, these babies are the first tangible proof that this pioneering IVF technique can fulfill its promise. Each child was born healthy, with normal birth weights, and crucially, they are all continuing to meet their developmental milestones as they grow. For the families involved, this success is nothing short of a miracle. After living with the constant anxiety and grief associated with mitochondrial disease, the simple, everyday joys of parenthood are profoundly meaningful. One parent expressed the overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude, stating, "It's hard to put into words what this means to us. To be able to look at our child and know they won't have to suffer the way our family has, it's everything." These are not just clinical trial subjects. They are families who have been given a chance to escape a generational curse. The sound of their healthy babies laughing and playing is the most powerful testament to the procedure's success. The clinical data, published in July 2025 in the New England Journal of Medicine, provides the scientific backing for these emotional stories. The research team meticulously monitored the levels of the disease-causing maternal mtDNA in the babies. In all cases, these levels were either completely undetectable or present at very low percentages, far below the threshold known to cause clinical disease. For instance, the threshold for symptoms to appear is often around 80% faulty mitochondria, whereas the levels found in these children were mostly below 20%. In one encouraging case, the low levels of faulty mitochondria that were detected at birth became undetectable by the time the child reached 18 months of age. While the overall picture is overwhelmingly positive, the journey has not been entirely without minor health concerns, as can be expected with any group of newborn babies. The researchers reported that 3 of the 8 infants experienced minor treatable health issues that are not believed to be connected to the PNT procedure itself. One infant had a urinary tract infection, another experienced brief startling episodes that resolved on their own, and a third had manageable issues with blood fats and a minor cardiac arrhythmia. These incidents highlight the thoroughness of the follow-up, ensuring that every aspect of the children's health is carefully monitored and addressed, reinforcing the safety and rigor of the clinical program. The path to receiving mitochondrial donation treatment in the United Kingdom is, well, carefully managed, ensuring that this groundbreaking technology is used ethically and responsibly. The program is run by the Newcastle Fertility Centre, which back in 2017 became the first and only clinic in the country to be granted a license by the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority, or HFEA. This regulatory oversight is, honestly, crucial. It ensures that only families who are at a very high risk of passing on a severe form of mitochondrial disease are eligible for the treatment. This is not a procedure for all forms of infertility. It is a highly specific intervention for a small, well-defined group of patients facing a rather dire genetic predicament. Families who believe they may be eligible undergo an extensive and supportive consultation process. This involves detailed genetic counseling to confirm the nature of their mitochondrial disease and to fully assess the risk of transmission. The clinical and scientific teams at Newcastle work closely with each couple, explaining the intricacies of the procedure, the potential risks, and the alternative options available to them, such as using a traditional egg donor or pre-implantation genetic testing. This ensures that every family can make a fully informed decision that is right for them. The process is not just about medical eligibility, it is about providing compassionate, comprehensive care that addresses the emotional and ethical complexities of their situation. The support network extends far beyond the clinic walls. The program is supported by the National Health Service, ensuring that this cutting-edge treatment is accessible based on medical need, not the ability to pay. Furthermore, charitable organizations like the Lilly Foundation play a vital role, offering emotional support, information, and a sense of community for families affected by mitochondrial disease. This charity, founded by parents who lost their own daughter to the condition, has been a key advocate for the research and provides an invaluable lifeline for families navigating this difficult journey. This collaborative approach between the NHS, researchers and charities creates a holistic support system for these pioneering families. The results of the Newcastle program demonstrate the careful consideration given to each family's unique circumstances. Alongside PNT, the clinic also offers pre-implantation genetic testing for mitochondrial disease, which is suitable for women with lower levels of the faulty gene. Of the 39 patients who underwent PGT, there were 16 clinical pregnancies and 18 healthy births. For the PNT program, 22 patients underwent the procedure, resulting in 8 clinical pregnancies and 8 healthy babies, with 1 pregnancy still ongoing. These figures show that the clinic is providing tailored solutions, guiding each family to the treatment path that offers them the very best chance of success. The success of the prenuclear transfer technique is not just measured in healthy births, but also in the detailed scientific data that underpins them. A key concern for scientists was the phenomenon known as carryover, where a small amount of the mother's faulty mitochondria might be accidentally transferred along with the nuclear DNA. The goal is to keep this carryover to an absolute minimum. The results from the 8 babies are incredibly reassuring on this front. The levels of maternal mitochondrial DNA that were carried over ranged from being completely undetectable to a maximum of 16% in blood samples and 20% in urine samples. These figures are well below the critical threshold where the disease would manifest. Another phenomenon that researchers are carefully monitoring is reversal or reversion. This is where the small carried-over population of faulty mitochondria might gain a replicative advantage and increase in proportion over time after birth. This was observed to a small degree in a few of the children, but the levels remained safely below the disease threshold. In one very positive case, the opposite occurred. The proportion of faulty mitochondria actually decreased and became undetectable as the child grew older. Understanding the dynamics of this mitochondrial behavior is a top priority for the research team, as it is key to refining the technique and ensuring its long-term safety and effectiveness for future patients. The clinical pregnancy rates provide another important metric of success. For a novel and highly complex assisted reproduction technique, the numbers are promising. The pronuclear transfer procedure resulted in a clinical pregnancy rate of 36% per patient who started the process. This led to the 8 healthy babies and 1 ongoing pregnancy. While this rate might seem lower than some standard IVF cycles, it must be viewed in the context of the profound benefit it offers, the prevention of a devastating and incurable genetic disease. The fact that more than a third of attempts result in a healthy pregnancy is a remarkable achievement for such a pioneering technology and offers real, tangible hope to this specific patient group. Ultimately, the most important numbers are 8 healthy babies from 7 families. These children are not statistics. They are the living embodiment of the program's success. Their normal health and development are the ultimate validation of the science. Each developmental milestone they reach, their first smile, their first steps, their first words, is a victory against the genetic disease that could have defined their lives. The careful collection and publication of all this data, from mitochondrial levels to pregnancy rates, is vital for building confidence in the procedure and for paving the way for its wider, responsible adoption in other countries that are watching the UK's experience very closely. While the initial results of the prenuclear transfer program are a cause for celebration, the work of the scientific and medical teams is far from over. The birth of these 8 healthy children marks the beginning of a crucial new phase, long-term follow-up. Every child born through this technique has been enrolled in a comprehensive study that will monitor their health and development for up to 5 years, and potentially longer. This meticulous observation is essential for ensuring there are no unforeseen, long-term consequences of the procedure. It is a commitment to the well-being of these pioneer children, and a core part of the responsible implementation of this new science. The primary focus of this long-term research is to continue monitoring the levels and behavior of the carried-over maternal mitochondria. Scientists want to confirm that the low levels of faulty mitochondrial DNA remain stable and do not increase over time to a point where they could cause health problems later in life. This involves periodic, non-invasive testing, such as blood and urine samples, to track the mitochondrial populations in different tissues. This data will be invaluable for refining the prenuclear transfer technique potentially leading to methods that reduce the initial carryover even further, and providing a clearer picture of the long-term prognosis for children born via this method. Beyond the mitochondrial data, the follow-up study will assess all aspects of the children's general health and neurodevelopment. This is to ensure that they are growing and learning on par with their peers conceived naturally or through standard IVF. While there is currently no biological reason to suspect any issues, this diligent monitoring is a critical part of the ethical framework surrounding any new medical technology involving human reproduction. It provides reassurance to the families, the regulators, and the public that the procedure is not only effective in preventing mitochondrial disease, but is also safe for the overall health of the child. This commitment to long-term study is a hallmark of the cautious and ethical approach taken by the UK. The researchers and regulators understand that they are navigating uncharted territory. By building a robust database of long-term outcomes, they are creating an invaluable resource for the global scientific community. This will help inform the debate in other countries like the United States, where the procedure remains controversial and is not yet approved. The ongoing research in Newcastle is not just about the 8 children already born. It is about building a secure foundation of knowledge for all the families who may benefit from this technology in the future. The journey of mitochondrial donation, from a concept in a laboratory to a clinical reality in an NHS hospital, was a long and deliberate one, paved with extensive ethical debate and public consultation. The United Kingdom became the first country in the world to formally legalize this type of procedure in 2015, but this decision was not made lightly. It was the result of years of review by scientific bodies, ethicists, and Parliament. Public dialogues were held to ensure that society's views were heard and considered, addressing concerns about genetic modification, the welfare of the child, and the role of the mitochondrial donor in the process. A key part of this process was the careful framing of the procedure. Regulators and scientists took great care to explain that this is not about creating designer babies or altering the fundamental genetic identity of a person. The intervention is strictly limited to replacing faulty mitochondria to prevent a specific and severe class of diseases. The legislation passed by the UK Parliament contains strict safeguards enforced by the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority. The HFEA's role is to license and inspect clinics, approve individual patient applications on a case-by-case basis, and ensure that the highest standards of safety and ethics are maintained at all times. This robust regulatory framework has been crucial for building public trust and has set a global standard for how to introduce such a sensitive and powerful new technology. The contrast with other nations is stark. In the United States, for example, a congressional ban effectively prevents the Food and Drug Administration from even considering clinical trials involving heritable genetic modification, leaving American families with no access to this treatment. However, the UK's success is inspiring change elsewhere. Australia, for instance, has recently changed its laws to permit mitochondrial donation, following a similar path of careful ethical review and legislative action. The ongoing success of the Newcastle programme serves as a powerful case study for the rest of the world. It demonstrates that with a cautious approach, strong regulation, and a clear focus on preventing disease, it is possible to navigate the complex ethical landscape of advanced reproductive technologies. The stories of the families who have benefited provide a compelling human argument that complements the scientific data. They show that the goal is not to re-engineer humanity, but to relieve human suffering and to give parents the chance to have a healthy child who is genetically their own, a goal that resonates deeply across all cultures. The birth of these 8 healthy children in the UK is more than just a medical headline. It marks the dawn of a new era in the fight against inherited genetic disease. For generations, families affected by mitochondrial disorders have lived under a cloud of inevitability, passing down a legacy of illness with no hope of intervention. Pronuclear transfer has shattered that paradigm. It has transformed a conversation about managing inevitable suffering into one about proactive prevention and genuine hope. The technique represents a triumph of human ingenuity and compassion, a tool designed not to enhance or design, but simply to heal and to permit a healthy life to begin. The emotional impact on the families who have walked this path is immeasurable. They have moved from a place of deep-seated fear and genetic despair to one of profound joy and gratitude. "We had been through so much and almost given up hope," one father recounted. "To now have our healthy daughter, to see her thrive, it's a dream we never thought would come true." These personal stories are the true measure of success. They remind us that behind the complex science and ethical debates are real people whose lives have been fundamentally changed for the better. This technology offers them the most precious gift of all, the freedom to build a family without fear. The journey is ongoing, and the path ahead requires continued diligence, research, and careful oversight. The long-term follow-up of the children is paramount, and scientists will continue their work to refine the technique and deepen our understanding of mitochondrial genetics. The ethical conversation will also continue as more countries consider whether to follow the UK's lead. However, the precedent has now been set. It has been shown that with courage, caution, and a clear moral purpose, science can provide solutions to some of humanity's most heartbreaking medical challenges, empowering individuals and strengthening families. In the end, this story is a powerful testament to the promise of science to change lives. It is a narrative of hope, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge in the service of human health. The laughter of 8 healthy children who would have otherwise faced a life of devastating illness is the most powerful argument for this remarkable breakthrough. They are the pioneers of a healthier future, and their existence offers a glimmer of light to countless other families across the globe, proving that even in the face of the most daunting genetic odds, there is now a new and powerful reason to hope for a brighter dawn.